As has happened many times before, the Western Splatoon scene has been exposed to something Japanese top players are doing, and it's completely altered the way we see a weapon. We used to think that the tent umbrella was a useless meme weapon back in Splatoon 2, and then we saw one Japanese player pushing it, and all of a sudden we had tent mains at every skill bracket. Now it's happening in Splatoon 3 with V-Heavy. Kyo tweeted a screenshot of a match in which a Heavy player painted 4200p in one game, and provided a replay code. Now every backliner I know has at least messed with it to figure it out for themselves. We're going to talk about how this crazy paint output is possible, where it puts the weapon, and what you should do about it. Because I am your dad and can tell you what to do. Thank God that's not true. Jeez, in this economy? This is the gameplay from that match that Kyo shares with us. Because you may be thinking I'm picking the most boring part to make a point, I'm going to show you the whole match from the beginning while I talk over it, and you will realize that it is all the boring part. It is probably the most uninteractive Splatoon gameplay I've ever seen in my life, but it is academically fascinating how optimized it is. In order for our opinion of a weapon's viability to change, there has to be an idea that hadn't occurred to anyone to try before, and that sort of idea is rare. We have a lot of players spread out all around the world from different backgrounds that came to the game for different reasons, even to play different game modes with the same weapons, that are all looking for solutions to problems that the game presents. For most weapons, it's not a matter of refinement that's needed, but a total paradigm shift, something that completely enables a new playstyle. That paradigm shift comes from this moment right here. Wavebreaker is a pretty fast special to deploy compared to the others. On the Heavy Deco kit, for example, as soon as the special's popped, you're going to be a Kraken instead of a splatling for a while. A Booyah Bomb takes time to charge up before it can be thrown. Wavebreaker, though, you pop it, you drop it, and you go right back to painting again. What that also does, though, like with every special in the game, is refill your ink tank. It turns out that the Heavy Splatling outputs so much paint that with just a little bit of special charge gear, not even a main, you can easily throw a sprinkler and fire one full charge of shots and get your entire special meter filled. Now, instead of having to refill your ink tank by going back into swim form, you can just throw out a Wavebreaker and do it again. Throwing a Wavebreaker is way faster than all that silly downtime you usually have to put up with. Now you can get back to painting the map, which is all we came here to do. It's important to put this into context so everyone takes away the right idea from it. In this match, the player, Tenpi, pardon me if my Japanese pronunciation isn't the best, has an unusually extreme job to do. The comp consists of a Tetradulis player, a blaster, and a vanilla tri-slosher. These are not high paint weapons at all, and they're playing splat zones against a Splattershot Jr., an H3 Nozzle Nose, and 2 Heavy Splatlings. When have you ever seen a Splattershot Jr. be the lowest painting weapon on a team? The paint numbers tell the story here. One team spread out its painting the zone duty across 4 players. The other team put that entire job in the hands of this one guy, hoping it would free up the rest of the team to do what their weapons do best: win fights and take space. Another critical consideration for looking at this number: if you were to just take this weapon into recon mode and try to paint up a map, you wouldn't be able to paint this much in this amount of time, because you'd run out of map to paint. You're going to have the whole place painted top to bottom at closer to 2000 than 4000p. Think back to the early days of the game, when people were colluding with refluxes to paint the same patch of turf back and forth to earn disproportionate post-game rewards. The high paint numbers only happen when the opponent resets what you've just painted so you can paint over it again. The fact that the opposing team had such a ridiculous paint output itself, and that they're playing the game mode where there is a single critical spot to keep painted in your color, is a part of the reason that this number was able to happen. Even so, even under normal circumstances, the paint output on this weapon is staggering. Conventional wisdom would say you usually only want one weapon on a team comp that's not going to paint that well to be competitive. We've seen metagames where we pair two very high output painting weapons, say Neo Splash and Snipe Rider, to enable the other two weapons to focus purely on fighting. This is the first time I've seen someone try to put this much of the painting burden on just one weapon and have it work out. It's not something I'd recommend trying in every game. It makes your comp very fragile, that is, makes it so losing one player completely loses you your ability to play the objective without an outsized numbers advantage. A counter strategy here, if anyone saw this coming, might be to target the heavy, and then as soon as they're down or even forced back, to be able to take zone by just painting very passively and safely, forcing the rest of the team to take unsafe risks because the heavy is the only weapon that can actually contest your paint output. You might also be able to target the enemy fighting weapons with longer ranged options, because you know the heavy is going to be busy painting the zone and may not be able to turn and look at fights very often. So is it worth using then? Well, the answer is, as always, it depends. In this case, it seems to have been. They won this game. But was this a highly niche counter to an unusually polarized enemy comp? Was it a response to being grouped with a set of players that gave them a less than ideal combination of weapon pools? Was it just the player screwing around to limit test? Well, that's why everyone's messing around with it now in solo and scrims. We see the results of that experimentation when it actually gets tested in tournament. Yes, this is why they taught you the scientific method in grade school. It was so you could get better at Splatoon 3 for the Nintendo Switch.